I wish I could have had my.
All right, y'all. Here we go. What's going on, y'all? It's your girl Tanisha Peoples, live with my homeboys Jason B. Allen and Nehemiah D. Frank, and we are that trio that talks that real shit every Monday, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Today we have a very special guest.
You didn't already got the Bishop going now.
You already got him going. I'm gonna let you introduce Bishop. I'm gonna let you go ahead and handle that.
My goodness. All right. So he is a African American icon, I would definitely say. He is the America's Bishop, Bishop Carlton Pearson, who is visiting us from Tulsa, Oklahoma, my hometown. And I feel like he doesn't need an introduction.
Well, this has been such a monumental weekend. And so I hope that people have their grandparents and great-grandparents, aunts and uncles tuned in, minus the title of the show. I hope that we have some faith-based goers that are listening too. But I just recall growing up and, having great-grandparents that lived well over the age of 100 who listened to Bishop Carlton Pearson's music.
You making it sound like he's like over.
Well, no, I'm just saying, no. I'm not making it seem that way at all. This is the point that I'm making. I remember growing up and traveling from Atlanta, having to drive back to North Carolina and Virginia, and his songs, that was the music that my dad would play in those midnight hours, thinking that we were asleep. And that's what he would be listening to get him through those dark, byways and highways as we were traveling to grandma and them house. But that was the music that they loved because it spoke to their character and it spoke to their love of God. And so that's what I meant in regards to that. And it was really a shout out because everybody who listens, and the three of you guys know, I love seniors and I love children. So, definitely, hope that our seniors are able to, tune in and listen to us talk that real shit. I'm so sorry, but
I'm sorry. I wanted to, make sure it was okay for us to use profanity to, even just do it today. Bishop, you okay with that?
We living in hell. That's what the thing is about.
Anything goes. Anything goes.
That don't mean we gonna go to hell, but we gonna live it for a minute.
So before we might really get into it, I don't know if you guys have seen his film that was recently published on Netflix. Do you want to talk about the film a little bit? Come Sunday. I've seen it one time. It was really weird for me watching it because I actually know Bishop Carlton Pearson. So for me, it was like, that ain't him. Maybe there's like aspects of the film that remind me of him, but it definitely was not him.
Yeah, we do shameless plugs on
not shameless plugs, like powerful plugs, not shameless at all. We go do our work.
We'll change that wording and we'll say powerful plugs. So yeah,
right.
Yeah, what's the name of it, Neil?
Come Sunday. You want to watch it on Netflix.
Come Sunday.
It's still on Netflix now.
It'll be on there for perpetuity.
Forever.
Cool.
So y'all want to check it out. And so
Bishop Chiwetel Ejiofor plays me, and Martin Sheen plays Oral Roberts. Condola Rashid's daughter plays and Ahmad's daughter plays my wife. I'm trying to think of somebody else you all would know. Jason Segel, the actor from, he's a Jewish, real cool dude. But there's some nice celebs on there.
Yeah. Awesome. So have y'all seen 12 Years a Slave?
Oh yeah.
That's Chiwetel.
That is the actor that plays Bishop Carlton Pearson. So
wow. I'm gonna have to check it out because Bishop Pearson, I'm not as familiar. I acknowledge that I'm a heathen. So I didn't really, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I didn't really grow up in the church and on the music and stuff like that. But at the same time, I am, a faith-based person, and I, get that inspiration. And I need that. So I'm gonna definitely check the film out. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you today to just soak up your knowledge. So thank you for being here.
I love cousin, believe it or not.
Now listen, guys, I know that we in the
we can't hear you, Jason.
So before we do anything, welcome back to our dear sister Tanisha. I didn't want any more time to pass without officially saying welcome back. We definitely missed you.
We're glad you're healthy.
Yes, on the last show, glad that you're back. Looking great.
Thank you.
And representing I love this organization that you're representing because I have some amazing classmates that are Zetas and Sigmas, and I hope they're tuned in now. But I definitely wanted to just welcome you back, and
thank you.
So happy to have you.
Yeah, so for those of you that are unaware, the Rona got my ass. So luckily, I hadn't had it as worse, so I didn't get it as worse as some people. It seemed, I guess it was a mild case, I suppose, and I got a strong immune system, so I was able to fight through it. And I just want to, shout out to my brothers for holding it down while I was out fighting this Rona. But y'all, for real, like, mask up and wash your hands and keep that distance, because even though I'm here and I, survived this, so many other people aren't, especially, people in Black and brown communities. So just keep doing what y'all got to do to fight this, because that, jackass in the White House ain't trying to help us at all. So you can't be out here sick, y'all. So, I'm happy about that. Blessed, actually. So thank y'all for holding it down, and thank everybody for the love and support over the past couple of weeks and me getting through this.
Most beautifully.
Yeah. So let's go and kick this off. We done shot the shit a little bit. We gonna do it a little bit more, because we cannot start this show or have a conversation on this Monday without talking about that powerful ass battle last night between Auntie Gladys and Auntie Patty. And I just want y'all to chime in a little bit about how y'all felt about it, who won. Personally, I'm gonna go ahead and say I've been Team Gladys. Gladys bought her whole Vegas show, so Gladys took it, but Patty threw them heels like we thought she was. But I think she was sipping on that Chardonnay. She was on that Chardonnay a little bit, and Patty was like, I'm gonna sit down, my heels too tall, I'm just gonna shake these shoulders, and that's gonna be it. So what y'all think? How y'all feel about it?
That was, I tweeted and I said that if you were Black in America and you have survived 2020, this moment was for us. We deserved yesterday. Right. And it was just so beautiful, again, thinking about my ancestors and my family and how they listened to these women. And I don't take it for granted that everybody didn't grow up the same, but I was so shocked to see that there were a lot of people that did not know that Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, and Dionne Warwick are actually really good friends in real life. And they had a singing group together. Back in the day, and it's so funny saying back in the day, because I'm like, wow, we are really in a point to say back in the day. And it was just amazing. I love the energy. They brought that, auntie spirit that we just need to feel. And they told Brandy and Monica, listen, we need y'all to work it out for real.
Yeah,
we really do, because America loves Brandy and Monica. Y'all know Monica is from the ATL. I love Monica. Yes, that is Neo that just literally walked across the room that you just saw move. And it was just good. It was good overall. I threw my phone when Dionne came out because I just was like, oh my God. And it just happened. I was just like, oh my God, Dionne just came out. It was amazing, man. The spirit was high. I don't compare either. They all have done so much. Dionne, Gladys, and Patty have done so much for the culture.
They created the soundtrack for our generation.
Yeah, they did. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And just, to Bishop's point of creating a soundtrack, what soundtrack are we creating for our kids now? Like, we in this pandemic, in this year of 2020, what is the soundtrack that our kids are going to play back 10, 20, 30 years from now?
That's a good one, Jason.
That's a good one. So I'm hoping that, some of my students, and I know they should be in class, some of my former students that have found the show and are like, Mr. Allen is really teaching in a non-PG-13 way, y'all. But if you are on and you should be in class, I need you to get on class. But also for those aspiring artists, poets, like we need your art to inspire this next generation. So yeah, kudos Tanisha for bringing up the verses. It was amazing.
Yeah. And I just wanted to, ping that point of like, what is our soundtrack? What do we want to leave our young people with in the future? Because, and I think that takes us into our conversation, a topic of conversation today. Like, are we living in hell? Are Black people living in hell? Because right now the soundtrack is like a Nick Cannon record is trash, you know. So like, Bishop, what you think, like, with all the things, all the injustices being committed against us, all the things that Black people have to fight within our communities and externally, are we living in hell? Like, what is this? Because I've had to thought myself, like, damn, these are the end times, like, with the way that stuff is going. So what's your perspective on it? What's y'all perspective on that?
Well, first of all, the word music comes from the word muse, which means to think. To amuse is to stop thinking. It's the opposite. This is a time when we're being forced to think and rethink and then think again. Thoughts are powerful. They're creative. They're inventive, because what you think about, you bring about. We're going through hell. We're not actually in trouble. We're in transition as a country. The old is collapsing in front of us. Donald Trump and his people, including a huge amount of white evangelical Christians, represent a group of people who have a superior attitude of controlling the culture, the character, and the consciousness of the nation, including the Congress of the nation. Politically, they've owned America, and they think America is God's country. We're the chosen people. They're the chosen people. They've gotten King James mixed up with King Jesus. And they think that they think King James said, "Go ye into all the world and preach to you creatures." They think we're creatures. They never will see us as legitimate equals. It's just hard. And they don't know that this is their reality. They now realize that they're losing ground. They're losing place. When Obama became president, they literally freaked out because the White House suddenly became a black house. We need to remove the name and call it the People's House. But when the Obamas got in there, and they were so sharp and so articulate and so smart and so black, and these people said, that this did not happen, did it? We got to change. We've got to get back control, because here comes the blacks. But within less than 30 years, the white man will be the minority, with African Americans, Native Americans, Hispanic Americans, Arab Americans, all these other people of color, which Trump called from these shithole countries, are coming in, and we're taking over. We're going to outvote them. They want to use bullets. When Obama became president, they went out and bought 20 million guns.
That's true.
They bought 200 million since then. And before now, in January, there will be blood in the streets, because these people are ready for another civil war. They want one. They want to fight, and he wants to be president for life. So we're dealing with a narcissistic, racist, arrogant, maniacal despot in Washington, an idiot, but one of the smartest ones that we've ever known, because he's cast a spell on tens of millions of Americans. They're literally under his spell.
Bishop, let me ask you a question real quick on that note, and then we can come back to that. Is Donald Trump smart, or does he have people on his team that are smart and manipulating him? Is he? I think he's a puppet. I think that he's being fed stuff, you know, in the White House, and he has a team of evildoers that prepare him, or have prepared him to be this puppet and this beacon, or this token of white supremacy and white hope and domination and disempowering black people. So do you think it's him, or do you think that he has people controlling him?
Oh, he's a New York mob boss. He's been there all his life. He's a thug. He has no business. I bet you hasn't read 2 verses of scripture and no paragraph in the Constitution. I
don't think he can read. I don't think he can read, actually, honestly.
But I do agree with what Bishop just said. He is a thug.
Yeah.
And he's a thug in the sense of what America tries to portray black males and black females. And look at them, they're hood rats and they're thugs and they're ghetto. But he is a thug. Yeah. The way that he acts, the people that support him, that are, the agitators and the protests, they are the ones who want a civil war. Those are the thugs. They're thugs too. Thugs are not black. I just want to make sure that we get that.
They're all racist
to all people that are watching, because we are so quick to say that, oh, look at those black boys and their pants are sagging a little. They're thugs. And then the white boy that can slam a black student or a white female student or a Hispanic female student at my former school in Douglas County, oh, he's just so misguided. No, he's a thug. That's what he is. So if we're going to call a spade, then we need to do that. I just wanted to address that whole commentary about thug mentality. So
plus,
when we think about thug, we know.
His father was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Ku Klux Klan don't wear hoods anymore. They wear 3 suits. And they sit in the houses of Congress, and they sit behind
Oh, Bishop, you broke
And
up a little bit.
they're control freaks.
Yeah. No. Go
What'd
ahead.
you say?
No, go ahead. Keep going.
They're control freaks, and now they're in public breakdown. These white people are literally having a public nervous breakdown because they know the handwriting is on the wall. They're losing. They're going to ultimately lose the control of the culture. The evangelicals, who, as I've said, have gotten King James mixed up with King Jesus, are realizing that they are failing and falling and floundering. For Jerry Falwell now to be exposed for who he really is, you're going to see a whole lot more of some strange revelations over the next 3 months. That's going to, in fact, it's going to create such tension, collective conscious tension on the planet. There'll be violent natural disasters, including earthquakes and tsunamis and things like that, because the tension on the planet is so tight right now. And America's been the focus of the world for so long. And Karl Marx said religion is the opiate of the people.
Oh, wow.
Vladimir Lenin believed that. And so did Vladimir Putin, who anybody with common sense in America knows if our number one arch enemy, Vladimir Putin, is pushing for somebody to fill the Oval Office, we should all draw back.
Right.
These misogynist men did not want an ovum in the Oval Office. That's why Hillary ain't there. It's not just all this other stuff that they talk about it. They don't want blacks. They don't want females. They don't want gays. They don't want anybody marginalized in any responsible positions in this culture. And that's religious fundamentalist. And they're losing ground, and they're having a breakdown in front of us. And that's okay. The universe is correcting itself, cleansing itself, purging itself, clearing itself, perfecting itself. That's what all this global warming is. The universe has a mind. It's very conscious of what it is. When George Floyd called his mother, it's because he saw his mother.
Yes.
And he felt his mother, and he heard his mother, and his mother heard him about to cry. And when he called his mother and she came, he called all the ancestors and they came.
Yes.
They're gathering around us as we speak. They're coming up out of the oceans, the slaves that were, the millions of them that were tossed into the ocean as they made that 7-day journey across from West Africa to the east coast of America, Brazil and South America. They're coming, and they are commanding a certain thing to be corrected. And that's why I believe in our lifetime, we will see that White House really become the people's house. And white will be moving. That they're pulling down Confederate statues and flags. I didn't expect that. I mean, bam, bam, bam. This is so powerful. This is not just this is a turning point. I mean, things are really starting to turn. We got a liar in the White House, and we got a bunch of people. So we don't just spell words. Words spell us and cast spells on us. That's where you've heard of a spellbound preacher or spellbound singer. I've been under Gladys's spell. I've been under Patty's spell. When those girls sing, those women. I mean, I'm grateful to be there. But that comes from repetition. Has been saying, "Make America great again." What he's really saying is, "Make America hate again legally." Right. To where a white man can put his knee on a black man's neck and kill him while the whole world watches. Right.
But Bishop, let me ask you a question real quick, because a class dropped a comment in the chat, and she asked, you don't think that this is the case for everyone who takes office? Some just are more nice appearing than others. And so when we talk about the racism of white people and the oppression of white people, like we see that, we talk a lot about skin folk that ain't kinfolk. Right. And so how do we deal with those people that have the black knees on the necks of the George Floyds? How do we deal with that?
We see that even among school teachers, black professionals are angry. Some of them have, and we are a wounded, traumatized culture for 400 years of psychological warfare. Right. Now they've got the biological warfare, and that didn't just start now. That's back with our airmen, Tuskegee Airmen and others. We have been traumatized, and we are experiencing PTSD, post-traumatic. We're hurting. And so even the people that have achieved well, like an officer who walks around with a uniform, a badge, dark pair of shades, a cool cap, a motorcycle squad car. His ego is huge, black or white, but you are a licensed killer. And even Native American or even people of color on the armed forces, whether they're black or Asian or Mexican. There's a lot of Mexicans that are arrogant, that are supporting Donald Trump. Because when I lived in Southern California, we had the Tijuaneros. They came over from Tijuana. They were fighting the Chicanos, and the Chicanos were the American Mexicans who had nice homes and nice cars, and the poor people would come and they would fight it with the brothers over on our side in San Diego. We would join with the Chicanos and fight the poor Mexicans. There's a lot of racism within the races. As long as they're racist, there's going to be racism. So yes, there is a blue line, and even black officers respect that fraternal order.
It's also. So let's talk about, I want to move on to this next question because it's really been on my mind since Jason and I come up with it. What role is Christianity being used to protect the continuity of systemic racism in the country?
Well, Christianity is the continuity of racism.
Can we just say the question and answer one more time?
That was the bishop that just said that. So
it's such a powerful question because, when we were deliberating on today's show, what do the people need to know? And, Tanisha and Neil, we've had conversations about religion in almost every episode that we have now had. I think this is episode 9. And, the conversation about spirituality, because there's a great need for Black people to heal. We just talked about a lot of the atrocities that have impacted us. But then also, as we're trying to, fight the power, we're trying to come together, kumbaya, unite, and drive a society where we all can live and dwell in. There is something that is, splitting the Black community in several different ways. And of course, it connects to the role that Christianity plays, because we know that all Black people are not Christians.
Right.
And I want to make sure we get into that too, because it was a division that was created so long ago, but it was definitely driven under President Obama. And I know that we're probably going to touch on him a lot because there was a lot that came with him being the president, especially with the direct attack on Black Muslims and also just black people in general. So what are our thoughts on that? And how does Christianity play a role in that, in protecting, more so in a sense, protecting systemic racism?
Black people learn to speak, Africans learn to speak English by reading the Bible, the King James. We arrived here officially around 1609, 1611, the King James Version of the Bible came out. And that is one single book has guided the Western world since then for the last 400 years. They taught us the scriptures that said, slaves, obey your masters. You saw that in 12 Years a Slave. If you saw that movie, it's been portrayed many times. The white man feels, and many Black people have also felt, that we were cursed and that the white man had the power to go over to our continent, the largest continent on the planet, where all of humanity initiated, and take 30 million slaves. The first Black on Black crime was the wealthy landowners and nobles in Africa who sold their own people. To white colonialists. And nobody ever talks about that. And they've been selling us out for years, making a little bit of money, maybe a few billion, but compared to the hundreds of billions and trillions that Africa is worth with minerals alone, just oil and diamonds and things like that. But they've lied to us, lied through us, lied about us, lied on us. But we cooperated, and you alluded to it a minute ago when you talked about the school teachers and the police officers and the Blue Line. We've always been co-conspirators. They find a few Toms along the line and treat them well.
That's right. Pay
them a little bit. They went over there and gave Africans some sugar or some coffee or something like that. And they took diamonds and gold because it meant nothing to them. So we have to deal with our part in this, the hell we have created for ourselves and our own souls because of greed or arrogance or ignorance, or the idea of elitisms, the upper, even Africans, you got a lot of princes and kings, and I've met with chiefs, I've met with kings, I've met with presidents, and they are spiritual people, but they also use their spirituality to control money, which is the same way witchcraft operates in any culture.
So The Bishop freeze?
Of their money cults.
It looked like it did freeze up a little bit.
But
Bishop.
Can I ask, because one of the things that's always fascinated me, and I think this is another conversation we fail to have, is how Christianity was used to control once the enslaved Africans were brought to America, and the slave masters and the slave owners forced this religion on them. Yeah. But it was a religion used to keep us oppressed and to keep us in the mindset that we were supposed to be slaves. And so I think that we still see that today. You know, and I don't think people have that conversation enough. And so how is it possible to teach the true religion of Christianity absent of that oppression and that racism that was used to control us when we were brought here as enslaved Africans?
We actually don't. This is going to offend, it might even offend you. We don't need Christianity. We need spirituality.
Yes.
Christianity Incorporated was founded by a Latin ruler, a Roman ruler named Constantine. They were first called Christians at Antioch, the scripture says. The word called there in Greek is the same word used for a call girl. It's a term, a reference to doing business, a DBA. They were first doing business as Christians. They saw the masses, they saw the crowds, and they saw the money, because money always follows ministry. We don't have to get into that. That's a whole nother subject. But we've taken advantage of that, and we've lost our souls. See, Africans believe in spirit possession. Holy Spirit, we refer to the Holy Spirit because we also believe in unholy or unhealthy spirits or energy. So because we believe that we can be possessed and get into a trance, that's what transcendence means. We are a transcendent people, and the white man was afraid of our ability to transcend slavery and create another reality while living on a plantation and maintaining our sanity, and using what they would call black magic or voodoo in Creole, which just means spirituality. We would use our spirituality to sometime get control of the owner of the property. Harriet Tubman fasted and prayed. We knew how to transcend. We had to literally go into a trance and became seers in another realm, seers in another world, seers from another dimension. And we came back, and it gave us answers to deal with racist, what culture, what people on the planet could deal with the violence. America was much worse on their slaves than the Caribbeans. And in Brazil, where they came across to the sugarcane fields over there, they were just vicious, and they're still very angry. The white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, called WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon, they are vicious, angry people. They're so afraid of us. They think we're going to do to them what they did to us. And that's not even in our minds. Right. We don't even think that way. We don't want special rights. We want equal rights. We know that also all lives matter. Everybody knows that. But all houses on the street matter. But if one's on fire or being burglarized or vandalized, we give it our attention. We are a vandalized people. We are a burglarized people. We've been burnt at the stake for hundreds of years. We need some attention, and damn it, they better give it to us. Ooh, right. I don't cuss and stuff. That's for y'all.
That's so good. You know, Bishop brought up a point, and it took me right back. I know that social studies teachers are probably in the middle of class right now, but Constantine, it automatically stood out because middle school curriculum. Our kids learn this in school, but they don't learn this aspect. Right. It just was spoken of. And so this even goes into how even though church and state is separated, right? But how Christianity is still embedded in our education system. Yep. And we indoctrinate this into our children. And so they don't learn it. When they learn about Africa, when they learn about spirituality, it's always looked at as darkness, because that is how history books in our public schools portray it. And so it's not just Christianity.
Or a place that doesn't have value.
Right. Yeah. It's not like it's just in the walls of the church. It's everywhere. It's systemic.
Well, and scripture says God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. Now, how does that make you feel?
Right.
Angel food is white. Devil's food cake is black or chocolate. Darkness is sin. Light is coming to the world, but men love We, because the melanin in our skin has us darker in our complexion, we're judged instantly. We even judge each other based on a color, how light he is and how it is. He got good hair, bad hair. Come over here with your nappy head self. When I was a kid, they used to say, act your age, not your color. Y'all never say that today, your generation. We heard it. First time I heard the word nigga, it was my mama said, nigga, don't you, if you do that, as long as you black, I'm gonna whoop your butt if you do that again. Well, we heard that all the time. We learned how to beat each other because the white man believed because we couldn't read the scripture that said, spare the rod, spoil the child. The Britons read that and they would beat us. We learned to beat our kids from the white man beating us. The black church needs to wake up and decolonize itself. We have listened to what Massa's teachings have been about a white Christ, and Jesus was not white. He was a single parent kid born out of wedlock, ethnic. He looked dark and olive colored and probably had more of his hair would be more like Jason's. I mean, a lot bit more dreadlocks or something. He didn't look like these white European folks.
Right.
But we weren't taught that. Our parents, we taught about little black Sambo. We thought blacks were cursed. I'll be honest with you. I'm 67 years old. I kind of wondered if we weren't cursed because all the people I knew were poor, struggling, nappy head and run over shoes and ashy around the mouth and treated. My grandmother drove a Cadillac but not to work. She took the bus to work and wore a little headscarf. And her brain came home with a brown paper sack with some leftover bread and bologna and a banana or something like that in there for us. So we thought the white man was rich and powerful. The big, what do you call the big signs out there?
Billboards.
Billboards have all these white people, beautiful white people that are on television. We felt ugly. Both black people don't show their feet. And the women had to wrap their hair. That was a law in those homes. So that black curly hair, kinky hair would not fall in the food. They treated us like, I say SHIFT, shift, because shift happens. And I try to help people get their shift together. We're struggling to do that right now. But as a people, we've been cursed. But our grandparents and great-grands and great-great-grands were taught by white people that their color was a curse, that this is Cain's curse, and that God gave them power to come from Europe to West Africa and to take 30 billion. God blessed them to bring slaves over here to bless this country. They say it's in God we trust, not to bless the country, but to build the country. They say it's in God we trust, but it's really in guns that they trust. So they call themselves pro-life. They're just pro-birth. Because if you're pro-birth, if you're really pro-life, you would support a president who has babies snatched out of their mother's arms, put in caves like animals. Christians need to wake up. They're under this man's spell. And I'm very vociferous about it. I'm glad you guys are talking about this. Or you're letting us talk about it. Because I didn't curse once.
Now, Bishop, we gotta. Oh, Jason, did you want to follow up or?
I was just saying some good comments coming in, and I think it kind of leads us into our last set of questions as we go into the latter half of the hour. But I do think that it is important when we look at the life of Jesus. I always shout out my dad because my daddy would let me read all types of books. So growing up, I was a very small kid. And, I had great grandparents, and, they came from slaves. Like their parents were slaves. Like they knew that. Like they knew what that time period looked like. And so, very hardcore, Christian, Bible-based, we love the Lord. Now, I said all that to say that growing up as a very small child, I read all types of books, from the Quran to, just any type of spiritual book, because I could not understand what I saw my grandparents do and how they would go into prayer and how they love people. I could not understand how do they serve a God like this, but my classmates are Asian and they're Buddhist. And then I have classmates that are Muslims and I have classmates who are spiritualists. And I'm like, and their parents they in the garden worshiping the trees and just are so free. But when I'm in trouble, these are the people that come to my aid. Yeah. So you mean to tell me as a little child, Daddy, I don't understand. God is sending them to hell just because they don't believe in Jesus? And I don't know if that's the person that I'm praying to. not adding up to what the Bible is saying. And I feel like that's such an important part of the conversation, because some of the comments went back to, so are we implying that, Jesus came, from a single mom? And what role does Joseph play? And, my question to Bishop would be, and to those that are listening, I ask my daddy this, my parents growing up, how do we know what version of the Bible we're reading? Like, if these people brought us over here and enslaved us, are we reading, and I said this on the show before, y'all, are we reading version 52 and they on version 4, or like are we on 728 and where are we?
It's been changed 40,000 times.
I can believe that.
The crazy thing about this is like, so when I started coming into my spiritual awakening and I started researching, the Bible and all of that, I went back and I found what you had talked about as far as like Constantine and all of that. But also, I started doing research on my family history. Took a little ancestry test, got my results back and said, you're this, you're that. And so I started following this line all the way to this group of people in Africa called the Tikar people, right? Mm-hmm. And so I found that the Tikar people, they were actually practicing Muslims. And so a line of my people were actually, they were Muslims before they came over here and became Christians.
Islam is 600 years younger than Christianity. Jesus was not a Christian. He was a Jew.
That's true.
Muhammad was not a Muslim. He was a Christian. Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. He was Hindu. Now, the leaders of movements create movements, that their followers create movements after they die. Mm-hmm. We were first called Christians at Antioch. Prior to that, they were called people of the way. Mm-hmm. Christianity is a Jewish religion founded by Jewish people. The Bible was written by Jews to Jews about a Jewish understanding of divinity. Prior to the Jews were the Egyptians, the Akkadians, and the Sumerians. Jesus is a sun god. We worship on Sunday, and then today is Moon Day. The moon. Pastor is Pat-aster. We're stargazers. That's where you get the word pasture. The sheep are watching their flocks by night. So astrology is called astrotheology. Astrology and theology align. Wise men from the east saw the star. They had to be astrologers, possibly psychics and seers, and they saw the star looking for the Messiah. So Islam, Christianity, and then they call the Abrahamic faith, they're all brothers. And there's about, between Christianity and Islam, that's almost 3 billion people on the planet, 4 billion. See? So, and they all follow icons. Now, Black people were spiritual first. Adam would have been black. Some very powerful Jewish friends of mine have said to me, do you know that we know that Abraham was black? Now the Bible is, Abraham married, after Sarah, he married a woman and had 6 kids by her. He only had 1 by Sarah and 1 by Hagar, the Egyptian. Egypt is northern Africa. Before we were held in slavery 400 years, we held Jews in slavery for 400 years in Egypt. Then God, whom they had not heard from in 400 years, comes on the scene throwing this violent tantrum, the God of the Bible, turning the Nile into blood, lice and flies and locusts and then killing and death. There's so much violence in our religion. And God is portrayed as an arrogant, angry, paranoid psychopath in scripture. Right. Just like Donald Trump. Don't care about nobody. These people can follow Trump because the God of the Bible has anger management issues and will kill you. And not only kill you, torture you in hell infinitely. That's really a big old deified demon. We're afraid of that God. You're supposed to be a God-fearing person. So our faith as Christians is really more in our fears than in our God.
That's right.
It is a fear-based theology, God logic, and God talk and God thought. That's what theology is. And so we have to basically decolonize scripture. We need to deconstruct our beliefs and believe that the greatest story ever told might just be the greatest story ever sold. We bought it and bought into it. And now we're crippled and it's hard to get out of it because practice doesn't just make perfect, as my friend Miles Monroe says.
That's
Y'all
good.
breaking
It's
up
a lot of
bit.
history. Are we breaking up?
Y'all breaking up.
Me.
Yeah, y'all good now.
Okay. I was just saying that it's a lot of history behind this. Bishop and Tanisha and Neo, I know that one of the things we wanted to address is how do we get Black churches to invest in Black schools? And the more I think about that question, I think about this. The Black churches here in America, whether they are from Christians, whether they're mosques, faith-based worship centers, are the largest landowners in this country. We still hold that. People of color, the largest land that we own is in our faith-based institutions. And so just in listening to Bishop talk, and again, you have to do your own homework on this. Like I'm familiar with these things because I've done my own studying. Then I thank God that I have a pastor that is studied and has traveled and is social justice minded, that he gets us together about this. And, I tell people all the time that I'm on the trustee board of my church, and I'm like, if they really knew how I thought, they would probably be like pitchforks and we're going to have to put the cross in front of his house and everything. But the reality is, we have to break our mindset from this. I'm almost wanting to walk the question back. How do we get Black churches to invest in Black schools? Because the reality is the Black church needs to do some work. What are our thoughts on that?
Can I offer, because I got a revision to that question too, like, because if you think about just the ratio of Black schools compared to traditional public schools, we have many more Black kids in that traditional system.
Yeah.
And that, has perpetuated all of this oppression. And so the bigger question to me is, how do we get Black churches to invest in education and Black education as a whole, not just Black schools, because we'll reach way more students and families if we're investing in Black education and not just Black schools. Because again, we got some janky ass school leadership out there, and we can have somebody like Bishop come to that school and say, hey, we want to teach them about, we want to teach them the real. And they like, no, we getting good money over here. We don't want you disrupting no shit. So how do we get the Black churches to acknowledge everything that Bishop has been talking about, everything that we've been talking about today, and course correct to then infuse that knowledge into education so we can be a stronger people in the future?
I would not wait for church leaders to do it. I would expect church laity who are in the community to rise up and go to their pastors and say, we want to adopt the local elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. Teachers should be one of the highest paid professions on the planet, far more than athletics, because our kids are with them 8 hours a day almost. They shouldn't be going in their pockets. The churches I influenced, I said, I want you to have a teacher of the year, give them awards, collect jackets and coats and backpacks and all that stuff for these kids to go. We need to get involved ourselves. We don't need to wait for the government to do it. But if you adopt the school and find a teacher of the year and award them cars, give them nice things, plenty of money to so they don't have to ever go into their pockets, and insist that the school boards raise the salaries for the teachers. Insist it. If we can come up with all these trillions of dollars that they're giving to Americans right now, bailing out banks and corporations, why can't we pay our school teachers? It's ridiculous.
That's good. And
we need to cry loud, as the church says, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet in Zion. So I am 100% for it. Just start with adopting a school. And the school adopts several teachers. And because the National Negro College Fund has been out there all these years, largely supported by Black churches and Black clergy. The church is not just the spiritual station, it's our social hub. It's the only place where slaves could meet legally and congregate in slavery times. They were always meeting in buildings. They would go out in the woods on Sundays, and that's where the slaves would have their elections and they would have their dances and their rituals. Eventually, we built churches, physical buildings, after they Christianized us and could control our God and our faith and try to disempower us and make us legitimate worshipers so we wouldn't transcend and use hexes and vexes and kill them. They were afraid we would put a demon on them.
So educator Barnett says, true that it's painful to watch a Black child stumble through reading scripture in front of the congregation. Yeah. Yet the church doesn't see that it needs to help support school.
Neo, hold on.
Why don't we see churches supporting schools?
Well, first of all, we don't really. This is the other dynamic. I read an article a couple of years ago, and when I spoke to Neo the other day. Actually, this morning I was telling her I was still going through research. The church is dying out. People are not involved in the church like they used to be. And I was saying to colleagues earlier this year, I was like, I really feel like this pandemic is a great way for us to reignite a spiritual revival, because we have too many people that are confined by religion. And I see my pastors on commenting, and shout out to Victor DeMond Tate, because he says this all the time. And I get so frustrated as a leader, because I'll, say to him on the side, I don't get, like, why do you keep having to say the same thing to educated, involved, engaged Black people in the church? Like, we need to build up our scholarship fund. We need to support our youth. We need to do the work of ministry. We need to go beyond just hearing me talk on Sunday morning, but get involved in the community, being the light in dark places on the workforce, addressing the issues that are happening. And it's like beating people over the head, like years of saying this. And I'm like, why are we not getting it? But the very time one of their grandchildren or sons or daughters or neighbors gets killed due to police brutality, they want to call up the pastor. We need you to come over here and pray for us and do this. And we need y'all to do a GoFundMe for us. And we need you to protest and rally. But all the time we're telling you the things that need to be done. And so that's my question. Why are we not, as people who know better? We know this, y'all. This has been going on for years. Why are we not doing it? And I don't know if that's a larger or bigger question, but I would love to know from people who are educated, involved in churches, or who grew up in churches, why are we not doing the much needed work that we know needs to be done?
And can we have a real answer to that question? Because I mean, it's like, is it a matter of, well, I do my work, I go to church, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a good Black person. Like I run my mouth. I think I want the real answer. Because to me, it seems like it's that thing of like, well, I've again done what I need to do, and I'll pull myself up by my bootstraps and fuck everybody else. Is it really that? Like, can we be real about that? Like, man, I struggled and I've overcome that struggle, and I ain't trying to help nobody else that's struggling. Like, is that what's going on?
So Bishop's about to speak, but before he does, I want to tell y'all. So I was lucky enough to be a part of this film with Bishop. I think it came out a year or two ago, American Heretics. Yeah. And it talked about, this very thing. But one of the things in the film that you said that I thought was so powerful was that the church of tomorrow will be a social justice church. Yeah. And you said that. Can you talk a little bit about that? And like, how do we get the Black church to that place again?
Jesus was a sacred humanist more than anything. He believed in the elegance, eloquence, and excellence of the human being human. The church has gotten away from that into religiosity. The Black church, more than any other church, should be especially sensitive to the elegance. And I teach my children, if you see a panhandler, somebody begging, before you even put money in their hand or their box or whatever, bag, whatever, make eye contact and honor the dignity of their humanity, of their personhood. Never just throw money in there. And I said, now, son, I'm not going to tell you when, but at some point, I want you to sit down next to that gentleman and have a conversation with him and say, yes, sir, to him. Ask him about his life, his wife, if he has one, his children. Did he have education? Is he a veteran? And my son, I thought he was going to wait for weeks. He did it 2 weeks later. He was in tears as the guy opened up. Black people have gotten tired. I even noticed during this last, the Black Lives Matter protests, it's mostly white people out there holding those.
Don't get me started on that.
Blacks I was like, we're going to need like 10 more minutes, but yo, seriously.
No, the blacks are saying, listen, my grandfather and great-grandfather and great-grandfather marched. Right. You know what? I ain't going to march. I'm going to get me a new television and give me some shoes and go home and watch them marching on TV. Shit, that's their attitude.
I was trying to find my keys because that is so true, though. Like, oh, God, it just blew my mind. Like, in the middle of us marching, I would never forget Rayshard Brooks here in Atlanta. And mall because some new Jordans had just came out, and I was like, all these black people at Greenbrier Mall in the goddamn pandemic getting shoes, and this brother was just killed at the Wendy's. And where y'all at the marches? Like, where y'all at the city council meetings? Right. Like, where are we helping to push change?
They're trying to overcome it.
But we're buying them $100 and $200 shoes for what?
Hey, but look, check this out. And then somebody posted a comment on Facebook, because you know the same thing happens here in Chicago where people get killed. I mean, again, we're an hour away from Kenosha, and you know that shouldn't happen. But then maybe within the past week, there was a young postal officer, a young woman who was a postal worker, 24 years old, who got shot up while she was working. You know, and so it's like Black Lives Matter, which again in Chicago looks to be predominantly white, ain't in the neighborhoods marching and having conversations for that. Y'all good, Bishop? We lost Bishop.
Well, I'm still on, but I can't hear anything.
Oh, you see her?
Go over there.
I don't know. I can't hear anything though. Can you hear me? She said yes, she can, but I can't.
Yeah, I can hear you. Y'all, we always got. You know what?
You know what?
Throw the whole Atlanta internet, sir. Throw the whole Atlanta internet away.
I know why you couldn't hear me. So we're actually in the same space. Bishop is right there.
Right.
So we're working it out, but that was cool. We probably need just give us a couple of minutes, and we're gonna wrap it up. Neo has these very nice lights, and they are like really burning me up. I'm like, why it's so hot? But can you go back over your point one more time? Bishop can hear, so I'm gonna see if we can get him to chime in on this.
Like when we think about, like, because again, the Black Lives Matter, the organization itself stands for something that there's a Black Lives Matter movement, there's a Black Lives Matter organization, right? And the organization stands for something completely different than the movement. And so when we talk about like priorities and stuff like that, and then people have these conversations online with like, why ain't Black Lives Matter in the communities advocating or marching against like what happens internally in the communities? And the example that I used was that there was a 24-year-old young woman who was a postal worker here in Chicago, and she got shot multiple times on her route. You know, and so somebody asked the question like, well, why isn't Black Lives Matter doing anything? Because Black Lives Matter in Chicago is predominantly white. It's a predominantly white liberal organization. And so that's why they're not in the communities doing anything. So we really have to make a distinction between Black Lives Matter, the movement, and Black Lives Matter, the organization that doesn't really have a grand interest or a general interest in the Black agenda. If we identify what the Black agenda is, it's not that of the Black Lives Matter organization.
And Tanisha, that's a good point. And a lot of people don't understand that, and they don't know that. You know, we really just need a revolutionary to say, listen, I'm taking over Black Lives Matter, and this is what the agenda is. Even when we talk about the Black agenda at this point needs to be educating our children, because literacy rates are so low. They're not reading anybody's Bible, Quran. They're not reading pamphlets. They're not reading anything. They're not reading because the literacy levels are so low. So
they can't read.
Talk about a Black agenda. It needs to be educating our children. It needs to be building our families, and it needs to be supporting our seniors. And it needs to start at those three things.
And the local churches need to have support groups for people who don't know how to read. You got a lot of babies having babies. They dropped out of school. Their mama dropped out of school. Their mama. My generation, and I was born in 1953. So the older Black people insisted we stay in school. They would whip our butts if we failed. They worked on us, even though they couldn't read. But now my generation, the one after me, the one after them, the one after them, I'm talking 3 or 4 generations down the road, they don't care anymore. They see their parents struggle. The first time I heard the song "We Shall Overcome," Martin Luther King was in San Diego, and I cried. There was a weightiness, a heaviness to that song. We drug it out and sang it with somber. My grandmother standing in the kitchen from Texas in San Diego, California, with frying chicken and watching the people in the South down here in Atlanta and other places being hosed down in the street and wild dogs or dogs biting him, and she would go, She would never curse because she was from the Holiness Church. She would never say much, but just, and I'd look back at her and I'd see the torment in her face. The pain. She couldn't read. Her daddy couldn't read. Her sisters couldn't read. Her brothers couldn't read. They struggled, and she again was cleaning white houses. Now, we have to teach our own teenagers and students and their young parents, sometimes who are also teenagers, to read and to be responsible and to make their kids study. And they're at home right now with cats and dogs and noise and little tight, hot, unair conditioned 2-bedroom apartments, 1 bath, kids screaming, hollering, and maybe a single parent home and with substance abuse and spousal abuse and children abuse and sexual abuse, psychological and verbal abuse. All of this stuff, only we Black folk can address it ourselves. We can't wait for the white man to come in. The churches need to talk about it and we have over the years, but these preachers are tired now. And back 40, 60 years ago, everybody was poor. The preacher lived in the neighborhood of his members. We all went to the same school. Our mama went to that school, the grandmama, or in the rural areas, they all went to the same church, same school. Now we're scattered everywhere, living in nice neighborhoods, gated communities, corporate executives, college educated. We've come a long, long way, but we're a splintered group any longer.
Yeah.
Higher class Black folks, upperly mobile, want to move out of the ghetto, want to move out of the hood.
That's right.
They don't want to go back. They look down on crazy. I lived in Chicago, right downtown, in some of those beautiful home condos down there for 6 years. And it was Black folk, wealthy Black folk downtown that were.
I can't hear y'all. Bishop, can't hear you.
I think the mic is back on.
There we go.
Yeah. Well,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, you, Jeremiah.
Y'all good?
Okay.
Anyway, before we can prepare, we need to repair. We are a very wounded, traumatized culture.
That's good.
We need our churches to start bringing not just physical healing, but we need support groups. I tell my preachers, don't get up there and hoop and holler and jump through the hoops on Sunday. This is group therapy. You're dealing with broken people that are nauseated and are humiliated and denigrated and vilified and insulted on the job. We have unhappy marriages, unhappy home life, struggling with keeping money in the bank. Parents still don't have any savings. They don't know how to balance a checkbook. All these things local churches can and should be doing to strengthen our own neighborhoods. White people say, fix your own stuff. Y'all live there. Don't tear up your own stores and your own eating grocery stores and your own service stations and vandalize your own places. Mow your own lawn. Sweep your own streets. Clean up your own house. Don't send them babies out of there hungry in the morning and have them wash their face and brush their teeth and have them combed and brush their hair. We got to start with our own selves and do our own thing first. And then, and usually whites and Jews and other people, when they see us putting forth efforts, sometimes they help more.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Because we got 2 minutes left, so I want us to, the topic of the conversation is are we living in hell, right? And so I want to know from you guys, what do y'all think we need to do, specifically the Black church, to get us through this hell at this point?
I think as people, however we want to identify ourselves, people of color, Black people, Africans who are American. At this point, when I lived in Cuba, this was the biggest thing, living abroad at other places. I'm American. I'm not Black American. I'm not African American. I'm American. That's where I live. That's where I'm from. And so we have to start to have these conversations. Bishop made a good point about, we got to clean up our own front doorstep. These are things that I go back to what I do and what I teach my students. And it's hard to reach students when you can't identify them. But we have a lack of Black identity in public schools. We have a division in the Black community where we want parents not to have school choice, and we want to force the public traditional school system that for decades has been failing our communities and our families. And so, we have to look at the things that we can do versus what we can't do. And the things that we can do, we're not doing. And so I saw Tony, I love Tony. She said that her church has, 50 ministries that are doing the work in the community. And it gets back to that. Like, one of the things that my pastor's doing, we're having a parking lot service the first Sunday, to accommodate the needs of our members. But then also, you know, getting out there with the men's ministry, feeding the homeless.
Yep.
Like there are families that are homeless that we don't see.
Right.
You know, there are grandparents raising school-age children that have not left their house since March, and they are struggling with kids that need social emotional support. So it goes back to the basic things, Tanisha, and then I'm gonna pass it over to you, Bishop and Neo, of what Auntie Gladys and Aunt Patty was saying last night. We got to go back to the simple thing of loving one another. Like I have people on my street, I'm walking my dog. Hey, brother. Hey, sister. How are you? You know, are you in need? Are you good? Is your family okay? You know, I don't have that much, but I got a couple of loaves of bread. You know, I can give you one.
Yeah.
When I'm growing some tomatoes in the back. Like that's what my great grandma and them used to do. Like those basic things work, and they still can work. If we want to love each other and want to build community, we can do it.
All right, so Jason, go ahead and mute your computer. All right, so I'm popping in. Down. Yeah, okay, so I'm popping in. I'm so happy that you just mentioned taking some food from somebody's garden, because we're actually getting ready to have some of Quentin's chicken salad after this. And a lot of the food that went into that was actually grown out of his mom's garden in the back. So I think that's where I'm at. I think that we need to get back to basics. We need to get back to like the community that I'm from, that Black Wall Street blueprint of really investing in ourselves and helping ourselves. I think that is the key to African Americans being liberated in this country. I recently saw on CNN that in this place, I believe it's Freedom, Georgia. Yeah, you saw that, right? And so these Black folks are planning on building like their own town, which I think is great. And the sister that is one of the co-founders of this town that they're starting, she actually mentioned, she said, well, you know, if white folks want to come to our town, that's cool and all of that, but they just need to know that when they come to our town, that our town is very pro-Black. And so we just need to get back to that, loving ourselves. It all starts with love.
Yeah, yeah.
Bishop,
go ahead.
People listening, people, pastors.
Y'all put the mic, Bishop, get closer to the mic for us.
And to just trying to get people saved and get them to feel safe.
Wait, we can't hear you again, Bishop. Are y'all on mute? I can't hear none of y'all. Yeah, I can't hear none of y'all.
Now.
There we go.
Years.
There we go.
All right.
Go start over for us.
With church people that we have been taught primarily by the white men to save people, get saved and then save your family. And I've been in a denomination that was the emphasis as the evangelical fundamentalist Christian, Pentecostal Christian. But my emphasis now is not just saving people, but making people feel safe. We don't feel safe and secure in this country or culture anymore. Right. And that's causing a kind of psychosis. We don't even feel safe with God. We feel like we can, most fundamentalist Pentecostals are not eternal security people. So we feel like we could cuss and go to hell, or look at somebody's hips or tit and go to hell. We could lose our salvation in a second. And so there's this constant insecurity. We're afraid, we're uncomfortable. We've got to get around that. We need to reteach. I ask people, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? And how do those beliefs add to or subtract from the quality of your life?
Mm-hmm.
And not only what do you believe, but what do you believe about you? Why do you believe that about you? And how do those beliefs about you add to or subtract from the quality of our lives? The church has a responsibility. A silent church is a saltless church.
That's good.
We've not heard enough from the church about, especially among evangelicals, following en masse behind this idiot in the White House. There's not enough corrective commentary made, even in the Black church. I don't hear enough from the leaders. They're not saying anything.
Yeah.
Calling us, we got a lot of Black preachers running into the White House trying to get in the Oval Office and get a picture with the president. I wouldn't even want a picture with him. What are these people thinking? And so that needs to be corrected. And that's the hell that we've created for our own selves, kissing up to this arrogant white man. This, where's my black? Where's my black? And we know he's a racist. There's no question about it. Stop this foolishness and vote.
Hey, Bishop, I wouldn't take a picture with Donald Trump either, but when I had COVID, I would have. I mean, I would have did it for the people. I would have took one for the team. I don't know if that's a threat. Don't send the feds after me, but I'm just saying I would have got up on them while I had
I'm like, hey, brother, can you
like, what's going on, Donald, with your bald head ass? Get real close to him, take that picture like I did it for the culture.
guys, I know we're down at the time, but this was such a
Hold on. Let me get. That wasn't my closing comment, y'all. Please
I'm
don't.
about to say, can we just do like 2 more minutes?
I'm like, wow, that comment. Don't send the feds after me. I'm dead ass. I mean, I'm joking, but I'm serious. Laughing, but very serious. Anyway, no, I just want to say real quick, as I always say, I grew up in Chicago, and I know we see the same thing in a lot of cities. Like, there are a lot of churches in Black communities. And I rode the bus home one day from the train station. I think I saw I counted how many churches, like closed and open churches. And so I thought about how when I used to go to church and still go to church every once in a while, we always hear the doors of the church are open. And, I want the people who are saying that to step outside the doors into the communities, because at this point, we need all hands on decks. We need pastors. We need those so-called nonprofit leaders. We need elected officials. Like, if you are not about the true liberation of Black lives, get out the way or get ran the hell over. And that's anybody. And so, if the doors of the church are opened, y'all need to come outside and lay hands on these communities. That's all I'm saying. That's my little final word.
All these white preachers that have a large Black audience that won't say Black lives matter. They can say Black tithes matter. They won't say Black lives matter. If you can say Black tithes matter and get that offering, then you ought to be able to say, especially when you got all them Black lives in your audience. So I'm calling these white pastors of significantly large Black congregations to get on the cutting edge and ruffle some feathers.
Yes.
I would definitely say to those that are involved in whatever type of faith-based institution is that, if you have less than 10 youth that are involved in your work, you need to get out in the community and reach people. If you have grandparents that have kids that are living in the house with them and you don't have a strong educational program and you're not out, doing outreach for them, then, there's work to do. Get out and do the work. I do want to also challenge our faith, whether it's the mosque, whether it's the, churches, that we get out here and reach the people that have been thrown away. I know the church members not watching P Valley, but those strippers and dancers
and entertainers, they need to be reached too, right?
It's some feedback might be on, Neo. Also, too, we've talked about this a couple of times on the show. I just want to make sure I'm hitting all the bases, but a lot of our youth that are being put out of their homes because of their sexuality, we got to think differently about this, because we can't be throwing Black kids out in the street when we are seeing people being killed. Because if you really want to deal with the issues, then let's talk about Papa and Auntie and them that like to touch on the children.
Yeah.
And then we blame the kids for being molested or raped or sexually abused and say it's your fault. And maybe that's a whole nother conversation for another day, but we do that too often. And now schools are scrambling, trying to figure out how do we reach these youth. And they're not getting out here in COVID-19, knocking on doors and doing all of that. So we got to make sure we're taking care of the people. At the end of the day, we have to take care of each other, take care of the people.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all for tuning in to another Talk That Real Shit. We hope y'all enjoyed the show. We hope y'all laughed. We hope y'all got some information. We hope that you are full. So until we meet again, this is Tanisha, Jason, and Neo, and the mighty Bishop Carlton Pearson out.
Thank you.
Talking That Real Shit. Y'all tune in next week. Bishop, thank you so much for joining us. Y'all be good and protect Black lives.
Peace, y'all.
Pleasure. Peace out.